What is going on, guys? My name is Max Silver. This is Free Citizen, and I wanted to dive in and give you the mission statement on what we're trying to do with this channel, our business, and the movement we're trying to create to give as many people freedom as possible and help them become free citizens. Now, you might be asking yourself, why do I need to leave the West in 2026 and beyond? Why do I need to leave the West? Now, the world has changed a lot, and let's be honest, living in a Western country is not once the blue skies future, the great thing that it was. It's become a lot more of a poison chalice. Now, why is this? Well, the world has changed significantly. Governments are becoming more invasive, they're becoming more badly run, they're racking up more and more debt, and things don't seem to be getting any better. Inflation, because of the things that they've done, has got out of control. Living costs, everything from electricity to all the utilities to oil more recently, have just got a lot more expensive, and it's becoming unlivable or almost impossible for a lot of people to live there and be free and be happy. The state of politics, well, politicians have only got worse. They're being controlled by special interest groups, foreign countries, lobbying groups, and they don't have the will or the desire to actually do the best things for the people anymore. And even more recently, being involved in scandals that might have involved a small island with a lot of famous, very powerful, rich politicians and other people on board with certain groups of other people doing illegal activities. Now, you have to consider another thing, that in a lot of Western countries, if shit hits the fan, if we have some kind of unfixable financial crisis, in a currency collapse, or maybe natural disasters in some areas, the population density and the amount of control that these governments have also make your Western nation susceptible to a cataclysmic state of events. Now, governments are also using technologies, AI, to spy on citizens, to catalogue you all, to watch you more and more. Everything you say on social media, wherever you go, is being tracked by your phone. And the government are getting better and better at using AI, and companies like Palantir to basically know what you're doing all the time and where you are going. Now, there's been an obvious effort to destabilize Western nations even more with the importation of low-skilled and just low-level illegal immigrants from nations where they're basically bringing undesirable people that are uncivilized, and it's causing the social fabric of these countries to break. I mean, obviously in America, you've got had knows how many problems, and in the UK, you can't even get a doctor's appointment because of all the illegals that have come in, and the bill is obviously being funded by the taxpayer. Now, not only this, but due to the influence of these toxic special interest groups and certain people that control things, the social dynamic has broken down, and the gender roles between men and women have become obscured. And this has meant that the old American dream and the social contract and the ability to have that nuclear family and that sort of dream life that we're all marketed to when we're a kid has kind of ended. This is why living in the West in 2026 and beyond is just a bad idea. The state of events means that governments and these groups of people are basically like putting a frog in water and boiling it alive, where they're gradually increasing the pressure through all these control mechanisms they have to essentially cook you alive. Now, going forward into the future, there's only going to be two groups of people, apart from the ultra rich and powerful and the elites, right? But for the average man, there's going to be two groups of people. Now, what are these groups of people? Now, there's going to be settlers, what we like to call free citizens, as is the name of this channel, right? So what is the difference? Now, as you can see from the picture, the settler, he's got his house, his 401k, and, pretty ignorant, pretty uninformed, doesn't know what's going on in the world. And then we have the free citizen. The free citizen understands the Fugazi scam of fiat money systems. He understands he needs location, independent income, and to invest in precious metals, Bitcoin, gold, silver, etc. So those are going to be the two kinds of people going forward. And our job with our business and our movement is to help you make sure that you're a free citizen and you're not a settler where they're just oblivious to what's going on. Now, what are settlers, right? So settlers are people that stay where they're born, they accept the tax system, the cost of living, job structure, they trade freedom for stability, they follow the default path, they invest in pensions, property mainly, and they're just kind of overall happy with the society that's in front of them. They don't realise they're getting screwed, and you know that all the gravy train is eventually going to come to an end. The people that are typically buying into the mainstream narrative, they believe in what they're being told on the BBC, Sky News, whatever, and they don't realise that the whole system and that everything that's in front of them and being told to them since they're a child is basically just one big scam to keep the elites in their place and keep the people subjugated and slaves to the system. Now, these people talk about their country like it's their parent, and they tend to think that the government is this rational big brother or father figure that wants the best for them and is going to protect them. They don't realise that it is a nefarious, parasitic entity that when it no longer needs the people, it will get rid of them. Now, these people think you have some sort of moral obligation to pay taxes, and they might say that if you complain about paying your taxes, for example, that goes to housing all these migrants, or goes on, you know, in the US CIA black projects, or in the UK to fund ridiculous things, they'll say things to you like, oh, well, where's your sense of community? We have a moral obligation to look out for our fellow countrymen and pay taxes. These people are asleep at the wheel, they're heading towards chaos, and if you try and speak any sense to them, any logic, they're infected with the mind virus, right? You know, if you try and talk sense to these people, it's like they're infected with a virus and they just can't see what's in front of them. So there's almost no point. There's no point. I don't try to have these kind of conversations with my family members. You know, they are asleep at the wheel and they are heading off the road fast. Now, these people are effectively, by being in one country, one currency, one banking system, and having a job in that country, you know, let's say a small business in that country, they're effectively long that country. You're effectively long your government, long your currency, and all your eggs are in one basket, right? So that's what a settler is. Now, obviously, with the things I've mentioned previously, with the state of the world, with these wars, with the advent of AI, Palantir, all these things, you have to ask yourself the question, is it good to be a settler? And I think you know the answer. Now, what is a free citizen? Now, a free citizen is someone who obviously does not buy into the brainwashing, into the fugazi money system and the lies that you have been brought up within the West. They choose countries strategically. You know, us free citizens, we will pick a country for economic reasons, we will choose a country for business reasons, residency reasons, or tax reasons. Everything we do is a strategic linchpin in our greater plan to optimize our lifestyles for freedom and to hedge against the outcome of black swan events and global chaos. We study economics, we look for the strengths and weaknesses in each country tax system and base, and we think globally, and above all, we resist tyranny. We understand this world is fragile and unpredictable. We don't accept Western governments' narrative or brainwashing, and we invest in things like crypto, precious metals, and even though we might hold property, some of us, we don't prioritise having a mortgage in the country that we live in and thinking this is the best decision we've ever made. If you want to live for total freedom in the future, you have to embody the 3 pillars of freedom. Now, if you abide by the 3 pillars of freedom, you are going to effectively live a happy, free life. If you abide by the 3 pillars of freedom, you are going to live a very happy, free life, and you're going to be hedged against black swan events and not the victim to any government tyranny or AI oversight. So what are the 3 pillars of freedom? Now, number 1, your mind. Now, why do we start with the mind? Because if your mind is plugged into Western mainstream narratives and you're not trying to, if you're just swallowing all this garbage that they're feeding you, you've got to kind of put your mind on a diet and not consume this rubbish. So it's like if you're waking up every day, you're putting on Sky News or CNN, and you believe in either, you know, more recently, the government's narrative about why it's attacking people abroad, or, you know, when Biden was in power, if you believe in the narrative about why we need more illegal immigrants or why we need to raise taxes more, you are eating from the government and the control grid's feed box, and you're not thinking for yourself. And so, number one, let's free your mind, educate yourself, avoid the news, associate with like-minded people that are awake and not asleep at the wheel. Learn business skills, invest in negotiating, and above all, resist the frame of settlers, because settlers will try to suck you back into their mainstream narrative and say, oh, Billy, you don't need to move abroad. You can live right here and you can get a property down the street and you can marry Lucy. Meanwhile, Lucy's like a hog that's 300 pounds, but they will tell you, they'll try and suck you back into their frame, and they will tell you, get a 401k, buy a property down the road, get a job at Walmart or some corporation. They're asleep and they want you to be asleep with them. So the next pillar of freedom is income. Now, once your mind is free from the control grid, you next need to free your income. Now, if you don't free your income and you don't have your income, you are dependent on a corporation. Perhaps you work for the government, you're dependent on the government, but you are a slave to someone else. You are locked in. You do not have choice over your location or any of the other things that you do. And if your income isn't still not free, but you've already freed your mind, you might re-succumb to the propaganda and the mind control that is put out. So the second pillar of freedom is to build your own business, your own income. If you can have that diversified between several different countries, that's great, but you need this because it's going to allow you to hedge against uncertainty of one economy, one market, and it's going to allow you to be flexible and move where you want, which in the future that's coming to us all, I think this really is crucial. And the final one is location. Now, once you have the pillars of mind and income sorted, you can then start to look at location. But each of these pillars is listed in an order on purpose, because it's like if you don't have the first one sort of erected and able and ready to go, you can't put the next one up and you can't progress down the line to get the lifestyle and the freedom that you want. So the next one is location. So free citizens explore different locations. This is all on a strategic basis. We get bank accounts abroad, we get residencies, we get passports, we have investments in different countries and income streams. So each of these pillars of freedom is crucial. And once you have one category sorted, you can move on to the next one. So you might ask, who am I? Well, I'm Max Silver. I have been traveling the world and living abroad since the age of 25. I'm 35 now, so for the last 10 years. I set up a recruitment company when I was 25 after working in the industry for a few years. Scaled that business pretty quickly to 6 figures, and it made me a very good income and allowed me to live this free citizen lifestyle, traveling the world, learning about different residencies, countries, how things go. And I grew that business even more, and now we have a number of staff and target 3 different countries. So I have lived this free citizen lifestyle for around a decade now. My business partner is my brother, and he's involved in this business as well. With our team, we try to help liberate and save a lot of men and just people in general from living that tyrannical Western rat race lifestyle that most people are caught up and stuck in, being a slave to the system. I'm also someone that has had a lifelong distrust of governments and public organisations. I'm a libertarian. I think taxation is theft. Gun rights are a necessity, and I don't believe in the central bank fugazi money system. So how can Free Citizen help you? Now, we could provide a number of ebooks to help you free your mind, free your income, and free your location from tyrannical Western governments. There's one about Paraguay. There's also another one about building a recruitment business, if that is something that you're interested in. I also offer coaching on how to build a recruitment company, because this is a super friendly digital nomad business for people that want to be digital nomads or free citizens and travel the world and make money. Great business, perfect for the lifestyle, and you can scale it to 6 figures pretty easily. We also obviously offer residencies for Paraguay, Brazil, Bolivia, etc., and consultations if people want to discuss any of the services we offer. This will be discounted if you buy any of the services as well, so you won't pay for the consultation fee if you end up buying another service. So anyway, guys, that is what we're doing with the channel. That is our ethos as a business and how we're trying to help people with our mission. If you guys want to find out anything more, please go to freecitizen.co, and I will see you in the next video.